All right, another edition of Riding Home. We're actually recording this right when the college football playoff is coming out, so you'll get our kind of live reaction. But Ryan, this week Georgia looks like they're going to get a lot of guys back, except AD Mitchell. That's what it's sort of coming down to, it
Yeah,
seems.
yeah. Based off what Kirby said tonight, I would be surprised if AD Mitchell suits up and actually gets out there against Mississippi State. Said he's, been repping but not repping with the team, which means he's just doing individual stuff and individual rehab still. I would be surprised if he plays against, because now we're 4 days away from that. So that's
Yes.
not a lot of time if you haven't even been practicing with the team, and that's one of your 3 big days of practice gone
Right.
to where you didn't practice with the guys. I don't know if Kentucky is realistic either, just because I don't think a lot of us really know the severity of the injury and what exactly it is that's holding him back at the moment. I don't think this is one of those things where he just gets shut down for the whole year, but he's not playing against Mississippi State. If he does, then something really changed in a couple days.
So what's interesting tonight is that ESPN has got a top 7 on here, and they released that the Georgia Bulldogs are number 1, Ohio State is your 2. Which is kind of interesting because they're going they're going backwards. They got 4, 5, 6, and 7. I've never seen them do it that way before, right? Um, so I'm not sure what they're why they're doing it that way, but they are, and that's interesting to me. There
So
must
they
be some,
they just released 1 and 2.
yeah, 1, 2, and 3. Georgia, Michigan, Ohio State. Excuse me, Georgia, Ohio State, Michigan, and then Texas Christian as the 4. So to me, I guess that means Tennessee is not uh, is not in your top 4, which I don't see how that's a huge, real deal. Wait, why are you?
Congratulations, committee. Congratulations. You
Okay,
did something right.
no, all right, go. Tell me why.
Well, just because and we had this conversation last week. I firmly believe that Tennessee should not have been in the number 1 spot in the first place. I thought they were
Wow,
the 3 last week. I literally just thought if you flip flopped Tennessee and Georgia last week, that was what it really was.
right?
And we knew, Clemson being at 4 was ridiculous as well.
I agree.
Look, I'm not here to hate on the committee. I don't know these people. I don't know who they are. I just don't agree with a lot of their decisions over the years, and I really disagreed with a lot of what they did last week. So Tennessee, to me, in my head, was the 3 heading into this weekend, and you lose to Georgia, and Georgia kind of embarrasses you. I mean, you
Right.
didn't do anything outside of a garbage time touchdown. You scored less points against Georgia this year than you did
Fewer.
last year. So
Sorry.
to me, they should drop to 5 or 6. I would have them at 5. I think TCU does deserve to slip ahead of them. TCU kind of controls their own destiny. You win out, you win the Big 12, I think you're in.
Okay.
And I think that Michigan and Ohio State, one of those teams is probably going to end up not in eventually when they play each
Right.
other and eliminate each
Well, we
other.
don't know that. We don't know
We
that.
don't know that. What the committee, if it plays out the way I think it plays out, the choice the committee is going to have to make at the end of the day with that 4th spot is going to be between the loser of Ohio State, Michigan, a Pac-12 champion, a Big 12 champion, TCU. Like, they're all going to be in that play for 3 and 4. And if it plays out that way, there's going to be,
I mean, they still have not revealed who number 6 and 7 are here. I mean,
which is
so
which if
Oregon.
I had to guess, it's going to be Oregon 6, LSU 7.
So Oregon is your 6 and LSU is your 7.
Well, I have USC as my 7,
Okay.
over LSU. But
I mean, it seems to me like, listen, man. I mean, if LSU wins the SEC, they're going to be in the playoff.
as they should
That's
be.
that's just all there is to it. And I don't know if people understand that or not, but that's what's going on here. Is that if LSU wins the Southeastern Conference Championship, they will be in the playoff. Period. That's what this is. Now they got to keep it clean, but there's nobody they play. I mean, so
They've got to play Ole Miss still, right?
no, they beat Ole Miss. They beat Alabama. I mean, they got Texas A&M, who's hot trash, and they've got Arkansas. But there's just, I mean, it just says to me I mean, part of me, Ryan, is going to just say it right now that the committee seems very based on. I mean, they seem very Alabama focused. I mean, Alabama is a good team, um, but I don't know where LSU was a week ago, but
They were
that they
10.
jumped. They were 10. Okay, okay, okay.
Dude, no, listen, that's what I said last week. What you just said is what I said last week in this exact video when we're doing this. The rankings were way too based off of what they thought about Alabama.
Yeah,
And they still are. They still are. I mean,
I
LSU was, listen, they deserve to be a top 10 team now. They did not deserve to be a top 10 team heading into last week. All right. ESPN wants their top 10 matchup between LSU and Alabama. I get it. I think that's what happened. So, like, I'm not really a conspiracy theorist, but
yeah.
dude,
This is yeah. That's not what this is.
but dude, I mean, come on. Some of that was just awful. Like, I'm not saying LSU doesn't deserve to be in that top 8 now, but they were not the 10th best team in the country last week. Like, heading into that, based on what had happened, um, but it is baffling to me how much Alabama's influence is over where they put some of these teams. It had a huge influence over Tennessee. I mean, they were totally bought into that hype train. It had a huge influence over Tennessee being one. It had influence over where LSU was, and it had, I mean, it just
Well, let me
it
ask you
bothers.
this. Let me ask you this. I mean, okay, so what I guess I kind of wonder right now. I mean, Georgia's got 2 wins over the top 6 teams in this thing. You know what is
Dominant,
purported.
dominant wins.
Let me try to attempt to get my thought together here because if last week was so bad, Ryan, that it's hard to kind of recover from that as a committee. I think, and what I almost want to say is Tennessee falling to 5 does seem slightly harsh, I guess, but they are the highest ranked one loss team, and then you've got Oregon, and then after that, and for
So they put
God's
Oregon
sakes,
at 6.
they put Oregon as your 6, and this is why I don't like doing multiple things at once. I forgot to put the entire ranking in here, and I'm sure people will complain about it, but um, it went Georgia, Ohio State, Michigan, Texas Christian, then Tennessee is your 5, Oregon your 6, LSU, SC at 8, Bama at 9, and Clemson at 10. Um, First of all, and I'm going to talk about this on other videos, but I don't hate this. Just from the eye test, I almost would have Tennessee in front of TCU. Tennessee has better wins. Texas Christian has not lost. Texas Christian has not played LSU. They have not played Georgia. Oregon's only loss is to Georgia. Now we're seeing the playoff committee, Ryan, react to Georgia. I mean, when you look at Georgia skipped Ohio State and Ohio State, excuse me. The asinine ranking of Clemson in front of Michigan last week just was senseless. But now we're seeing 3 of the top 6 teams directly affected by Georgia, which is one of them is Georgia, and then Tennessee and Oregon at 5 and 6. My biggest takeaway of this whole thing is if LSU wins the SEC, they are going to be in. They will probably be the 4. Georgia would drop to the 2. But oh man, I don't think you're really safe if you're Tennessee quite yet. I mean, you need a few things to go your way.
Yeah.
Not quite yet.
I think they had a couple choices on where to place Tennessee here. Are they going to stand pat with what they thought last week, or are they going to try to overcorrect a little bit? And we see the little bit of
I
the
think they slightly
overcorrection.
overcorrected, man.
Yeah, I mean, if I'm being realistic, yeah, Tennessee's a better football team than TCU, right? I think that.
That's what it
But
seems like.
it feels to me like even in my own head sometimes, so I don't want to be hypocritical, when you're ranking these teams, it's like, are you ranking it based on the best, or are you ranking it based on the best
Well,
resume?
we will hear tonight from this group from Grapevine, and they need to have a more coherent strategy in terms of talking to the public. While I'm still rolling,
Yeah.
hey, listen, we're running out of these, okay? We're running out of your opportunity to meet Kelee. Everything's squared away. We are 12 days from our event in Athens at Red Zone downtown on Clayton Street. You get a book. You get to meet Kelee. You get a signature from Kelee. If you want a photograph, an autograph, you want to bring a couple, 4 other things to get signed. You want to have things inscripted. All those things. You want to send something. You don't want to be. You can't be there. All those things are possible. The details are down below. Ryan, hey, listen. Do not miss out on. You're all going to miss out on it, okay? Because we're running out of spots. I'm just being straight up with you right now. We have had a surge here lately. So, but Ryan, you were talking about being, I think, intellectually honest about things. I mean, Clemson still may have a path to the playoff, but I think like this was.
I kind of think they're out.
I think they're out too, but I'm just looking at it. If you're in 2017, Georgia lost. Like the one problem that you've got if you're Tennessee, one problem that you've got if you're Oregon to a lesser degree. Oregon can play for its conference championship. They can play SC. They can play UCLA. Tennessee cannot play for its conference championship if Georgia wins one of the next 2 games. Tennessee cannot defeat the team they lost to. Oregon cannot defeat the team they lost to. Georgia in 17 lost to Auburn by a lot, 20 something. Then they beat Auburn by 20 something. No one's going to have that corrective measure. Georgia was the 7 coming into that day, man, if I'm not mistaken.
I think they were the 6.
Okay, whatever. They were not
It
right
was
on top.
6 in that SEC
They
championship.
were not right on top of it. And that's, I just don't know how some of these teams are going to recover. I mean, let's talk about this just for a second too. Like we're just sitting here talking like, I mean, we're making these assumptions that Michigan and Ohio State. I mean, the loser of that game's not out necessarily, right? I mean,
That,
that's the
that
other
that's what
problem
I was
for
saying
Tennessee.
earlier. That's what I was saying earlier. I kind of think the way this is going to play out is when we wake up on Selection Sunday, we're not going to be 100% sure.
Well, I'll tell you.
Last year, we were sure of what was going to happen when we woke up, right? We knew who the
I
4 was.
can't remember. Yeah, I
We
think
knew
I think we
it
did.
was going
Yeah.
to be the 4. It was just a matter of what order and where they were playing.
I would be a lot less confident right now than I was like a couple hours ago about Tennessee's situation. And
I
and I
totally.
I, I, I don't. I'm sorry, Ryan. I don't know that that's fair. I mean, like, if Alabama's that good, why isn't Tennessee higher, right? If LSU's that good, why aren't they higher? Now, if LSU zips past Tennessee, okay. Okay, like if LSU wins the league, and I reserve the right to discuss this later, I want to see everything. But I mean, if they're sending a very clear message here, 2 and 3 are going to play. LSU has the capability of jumping people. If they beat number 1 in Atlanta, which is basically a home field, they're going to be in the playoff. Now you watch, they're going to be in the playoff. That's what's going to happen.
That's Tennessee's worst case scenario.
Totally. Well,
Totally.
Tennessee has got a
It's a
lot of
lot of people's
hurdles.
worst case scenario.
I
It's the
mean, like,
Pac-12 team's worst case scenario. It's
yeah,
CBS's
yeah,
worst case
yeah.
scenario.
Well, what you don't want if you're Tennessee and a lot of other people is you don't want decisive, like, you would kind of want an upset in the Big Ten championship game. That would really throw things. Well, maybe that wouldn't help at all either. But I just know I remember very. I'm looking it up now, man. As in terms of the college football playoff rankings going into 17. So Georgia was the 6. Alabama was in front of them at 5. Wisconsin got their doors beat. Or they lost to Ohio State, but we knew because had Georgia beat Auburn, that would remove Auburn, and Georgia would essentially just take their place as either 1, 2, 3, or 4 because Alabama could not move in, or so we thought. So Wisconsin lost. Of course, Clemson won. Wisconsin lost. Auburn lost. Oklahoma won. So everybody kind of shifted up and so forth. I don't know if you can still hear me, Ryan, but there you
I
go.
can. I'm not
Um,
sure.
I tell you, man, they have sent a real signal here that LSU is in a better position than Tennessee. I mean, that's what's happening right now is that LSU is controlling its own destiny. Tennessee does not. Now, and Ryan, when Ryan gets back,
I hear you. I hear you.
I know,
Hold
but I
on.
don't see you. Um,
You can see me now.
I cannot see you now. Now we can. I'll tell you this, man. If I would be, I do not think LSU is going to beat Georgia. Okay, I'll just say that. But it's not out of the realm of possibility, and they get to actually do it. So that's my biggest takeaway here is that you've got, Georgia is going to have to lose twice to not get in. That's
Yeah.
overwhelmingly unlikely. I mean, you're talking about one of those losses is going to have to come against Mississippi State, Kentucky, or Georgia Tech. Only one of those teams is ranked right now, and that's Kentucky, and they're holding on. All right, Georgia doesn't need anything else. If Georgia gets to, I mean, I think even if they were to lose to LSU, one of them would be the 3 and the other one would be the 4. And that would, I would say, quite possibly mean that Georgia is headed to Phoenix. But other than that, it doesn't matter. It's just the uniform colors change. Michigan, Ohio State would make me nervous if I'm Tennessee. You need a decisive victory there. Texas Christian make me nervous. Oregon getting to play. I mean, Ryan, everybody's going to be playing on Championship Saturday, and Tennessee's going to be hanging out, and that's the real worry here. SC can climb, LSU can climb, Oregon can climb, and Ohio State or Michigan, someone's not going to be there, but Tennessee's going to be the 4 coming into Championship Sunday, and they could certainly watch as their hopes and dreams just fall away as the games get played. And that's my biggest takeaway from today.
Yeah, I think maybe part of Tennessee falling is the committee realizing or being more realistic about what Alabama is this year. I mean, they're just is. I mean, I think off the top of my head, it's the worst Alabama team since like 2010. I don't know the exact year. I think 2010 they had like 3 losses.
This is
Um,
certainly the worst Alabama team since that year. I mean, 19 was not. But
19 was more
are we
talented.
going to talk about Alabama right now? I'd be glad to talk about
Just
Alabama. I mean,
briefly,
I don't really
19.
care, but they constantly, Alabama's real problem is over the last 2 years they have been a really good but not elite team. They managed to beat Georgia Skulls in Atlanta, and it really made people feel better about where they were than where they were really at. And then so Alabama has not been at the level of Georgia, frankly. Now they beat Georgia once, but now we're seeing they're playing around with Texas A&M, Texas A&M, lost to Tennessee, lost to LSU a year ago. 1 point, the victory over Arkansas, Auburn, LSU a year ago. I mean, they're just not the same as they were. Clemson, same situation, I would argue, Ryan. But both of those teams are a far way from getting into the playoff right now. This is the worst Alabama team since 10, for sure. And
Yeah,
there was a moment in time when they were not playing well in 15, but they corrected that. And they won the national championship.
yeah. I think these rankings were bad for Tennessee.
Yeah,
They got it way more right than they got it last week, but that's going to
I
happen
agree.
over time when you see more football. But way closer to being right. I kind of didn't care where Alabama and Clemson fell because they're just out of the picture
I
in my
think they
head.
are too. I
I
mean,
out of the picture. I don't think a
yeah, I mean,
12
I
and
think
one.
they did. I think. Let me just say this real quick about both of them. Alabama and Clemson combined with the let's just say 5 games they play. There's no team that they can play that helps them get out of a jam. I mean, I don't know who Alabama plays this week, and then they play somebody and they play Auburn. I mean, South Carolina beating South Carolina and Louisville and Miami. That's not going to help Clemson. I mean, they're basically just defending, and North Carolina's behind them. There's no one team that can bail them out. So I think if you're those two, Clemson can do it. Alabama is out, and I think Clemson is basically out. But you need total chaos. You need, not just, it's not about Georgia. You need Ohio State and Michigan to both eat a loss and then go to the championship game and lose to Illinois. You need LSU to win the conference. I mean, no, you don't. You need Georgia just to win it. I mean, you need total chaos, like Tennessee losing this weekend. I mean, it's just like stuff that's not going to happen. But I agree
Exactly.
with you. I think the committee got it right. We will not see AD Mitchell this week. You don't think? I mean, Kirby. This Georgia team.
He didn't say, but I'm reading between the lines.
Okay. Well, so then we don't know then, right? I mean, but um, we will see if this team goes and wins by 21 in Starkville and just handles business like a saw, like wood to a saw to a wood. Everybody's in trouble at that point, I think, because they just played the biggest game in Athens history, and if they're sawing through folks, that's not good. And I saw some highlights of Carson Beck today. If people think it's just going to disappear when Stetson leaves, they're wrong. I mean, this is a
There's some people that think they're going to be even better next year. I have a hard time believing that at the moment.
yeah. I don't
But
know. I don't
but
know.
because look, this team has potential to be better than last year's. They just have to keep doing it.
Explain.
Well, they can go 15-0, Dean. I
But
mean,
are
this
they
team.
would they really be better? I mean, don't you think last year's team would be favored?
It's
I do. I do.
this
I do.
offense is way more put together than last year's offense, and
I don't
it's
disagree
because
with
of the
that.
offseason.
I don't
And
disagree
the
with that.
defense did not drop off as far as I thought it would.
No,
Now,
it
I
did
didn't think
not.
it'd be as far. I didn't think it'd be a drastic drop off, but it's not as far. Like we're talking about like 6 or 7 plays over the course of the year is the difference between last year's defense and this year's defense.
Explain which ones.
6 or 7 just big touchdowns, broken assignments that didn't happen last year. People aren't putting up points on Georgia. They're getting garbage time touchdowns, and they're just when Georgia's defense goes to sleep in these little moments, which Georgia's defense just never slept last year, minus Alabama in Atlanta.
Right. And can that
Georgia
happen? That's my
defense
question.
going to sleep this year, and that's when they scored. But when they're not, it's the same thing, just different names and jersey numbers. Just not as
But
polished.
I just want to say this real quick. I don't know when Dog Post started talking about, no, these guys can win the national championship, but it wasn't in the fall. It was sometime in the summer.
We're
And
talking
I
about
think
this
this
current.
group. Yeah, this group.
Dude, we
This
were talking
group.
about February, March.
Okay, well, I don't remember when it was, but I mean, I think our total position was, and we could go find the videos, was that yeah, Alabama and Ohio State probably should win the national championship. Well, we know Alabama's not going to at this stage, and I mean, I think Ohio State is Georgia's biggest. Like, you'd better
That
watch
would
it.
be like if you were going to fear a team, like if you had to fear a team, it would be Ohio State. I don't see how any of these other teams beat Georgia. And
Oh,
I
I do.
I would pick Georgia over any. I
I would
mean,
pick them. I would pick them. Yeah, I would pick them, but I just.
Michigan, man, you want Michigan to beat Ohio State for Georgia. Michigan not beating Georgia.
Why do you say that?
They're just going to shut their run game down, and they're just not going to be able to score with Georgia.
Oh, it'd be
Ohio State,
hard.
it would be
It'd be
a
hard.
lot harder for Michigan to score on Georgia than for Ohio State to score on Georgia. Ohio State's
Don't.
offense is stacked; it can score in a hurry. Ohio State's offense is better
Yeah,
than
but
Tennessee.
dude, listen, man, listen. You're right. Hey, that's right. But and I need to go back and look at the statistics from the Penn State game. Ohio State's not running the ball very well, man. I mean, they
No, and they
really.
stud running back.
Yeah, but they're not running it right. That's a problem.
Well, I mean, I've watched more Ohio State recently, and I'm just, man, watching them, I'm less impressed than just when I'm seeing these clips.
Yeah, because they
And
can
people
because
talking
because
about it.
they got the highlights are
Because they,
good.
dude, I mean, like CJ Stroud against
Yeah.
the Georgia defense, I would not feel super comfortable, man, because I see against these Big Ten defenses what happens when he gets a little bit of pressure. He crumbles, man.
Oh, you're saying if you're Ohio State, you would be concerned.
Ohio State would have a hard time with Georgia too.
Well,
Now, their receiving core is ridiculous as it has been the last 5 years.
but isn't
Um,
Tennessee's? See,
Tennessee,
that's
yep.
that's what Saturday I was like, oh no, these guys can run. They can run with Ohio State for sure. Like Kelee, Lassiter, Ringo. Kelee. What if you had two Keeleys on there? Kelee, Lassiter, Lassiter, Malachi, Christopher. You got Tyke Smith. I mean, they've got Bullard. I forgot about Bullard. I haven't even mentioned Bullard. That's on me because he played great. Um, they have guys that can really, really run, Ryan, and I don't know, but
The linebackers can run just like they can last year. And you saw when they really put the pressure on you, they can get to the quarterback against a good offensive line. Look, before the season, I said Ohio State, like that was my preseason prediction. I thought Ohio
right,
State was going to beat Georgia in the national championship. I can't remember
okay.
where I put it. That was my thought. I might have not said it out loud.
I mean, I had Ohio State and Alabama.
I had Ohio State beating Georgia. I'm flip flopping that right now.
As it stands today, I would too. I mean,
Like
if
I needed to see it, and I've been thinking it for a couple weeks now. But this team, it's the same thing as last year. What we said.
okay,
It's
what chance?
time. It's
What
time.
chance?
Well, it should again.
What chance is there that they go to state and have a hard time? What chance is there that they go to Kentucky, which has a
I could.
crowd that is
I don't think they'll struggle in both games. I could see one of those games where you have like the first half and they're asleep a little bit, and I don't think that's necessarily a problem.
so? See, I don't know if that'll be the Kentucky game. I don't know which. I mean, Georgia's just a better team than both these
I think
guys.
I kind of I don't know. I don't really think they're going to struggle against State. I just don't think so.
I don't think so either. But I know the Kentucky crowd well. That
That's what
place
I'm
can
saying. I think the
that's a
Kentucky.
tough. That can be a tricky little place to play. But Kentucky's not. I mean,
You just got to go up there and win that game. If you're Georgia, you don't need to worry about blowing them out. You just got to go up there and win that game.
well, that's it from here on out for Georgia, though, right? I mean,
Yeah,
there's
yeah.
no
But people want the flash, and the committee wants the flash.
now
They
the
just need to
committee.
win.
If Georgia's undefeated and they're not number one, there's a real problem with the committee. I mean,
Look,
it's
I
just
mean,
that's all
final
there is to
takeaway
it.
for me on this is just like Georgia has like a margin of error, and it's one game right now to make it in.
Correct. Correct. They could lose a game and they'd be either 2, 3, or 4.
That is what they earned on Saturday. They
No
earned
question.
a margin of error of one game.
And in Atlanta at the beginning of the season, I mean, did you think as we get off here, did you think that the Oregon game would matter that much?
No, because I didn't think Oregon was going to be ranked this high before the game. Before the game, before the season, I didn't think Oregon was going to be as good as they are. I knew that Georgia was going to blow them out. I didn't know they were going to become this. I didn't know Oregon was going to be as good as they are. They're good.
They are good. I was just going to
They
say. I
are.
mean,
Hey, dude, something we haven't talked about in here, and like I don't like it could be a whole nother video. Bo Nix would be a Heisman finalist if it ends today. He would be on my ballot.
well, Paul said that today or yesterday. I think it was Paul said yesterday. That Stetson could win it.
Oh, he
Now
can.
that
The problem is the numbers.
no, well, yes, but we're gonna wrap this. But here's the thing: you win things in November, and really that first weekend of December, and Hendon Hooker will not be playing that day. The Carolina quarterback probably will, but in a head-to-head, people are going to say, well, they beat him and he outperformed Hooker that day. And then, they'll go back to the Oregon game. They'll say, well, man, he's doing this against some really good teams. I do not think that Stetson will win the Heisman this second. I mean, I'm getting pretty close to confident that he will be in New York. He just
Um,
needs.
I'm a little skeptical of Bill New York. It's not because I don't think he's deserving. I just think that trophy has become such a numbers thing, and he's just not going to
That
have
he'll
the.
be in New York. You don't think he'll be in the top
He has,
5?
he has like 15 total touchdowns.
Yeah.
That's
Well,
just not.
I'll tell you this: it will come down to what happens in the SEC championship game. If he has a 300-yard performance with 3 touchdowns, that'll get him to New York.
Yeah,
Just
well, I like Stroud has the best opportunity because
oh yeah.
if he puts on a crazy show against Michigan, I'm not talking. He will win it like the 2 days
But
after
but
Thanksgiving.
what if they lose to Michigan, man? I mean that's the
Well,
problem.
Michigan running back is up there too, and if he keeps scoring the touchdowns at the rate he is, he'll be in. He'll be.
As a as a Heisman voter, I will tell you that I don't know who that person is. This is a quarterback
Been on
award.
a Heisman list watch all year, man.
I mean, this is a quarterback award, right or wrong, right or wrong.
Yeah, yeah.
I mean, and a Will Anderson too, right?
Dude, if North Carolina's quarterback has
He's
better
good.
numbers than CJ Stroud,
But that's my point, though. I mean, like you gotta string it all together. It's got to
Well,
be
you go
that
and
the
win the
games.
ACC championship. Drake May will be the UNC quarterback. He'll be in.
He will
He'll be in
not.
New York if they go and
He
he
might
balls
be there.
out.
He will not. He will not win it. But you got to play in games that matter in November, and
Let's just
just
do a whole nother Heisman video, man.
we'll all right. Dean and Ryan wrapping up. Thanks for watching.